Second example, standards. We have 6,260 standards across, key standards across the industry. Do you know how many are enforced, are complied with? Very little, less than 10% of the Malaysian companies are doing this. And so I give a very simple example. There are many farmers who are involved in aquaculture and fisheries. They rear very good tilapia, red tilapia, very nice fish actually. But we cannot sell our tilapia to Tesco in the UK and Sainsbury's. Why? Because we don't meet the standard for the water, not pristine. So that's why we cannot put it there. So it's important to make sure that across the industry, as many players comply with the best practice standards so that we can then sell our products abroad. It is key. When you less than 6% of the Malaysian companies are following the best practice standards, some of the markets are not even open because you cannot even sell. And so we're trying very hard to push for as many companies to follow the standard without making it mandatory. And so this is one of the things, very important. We are doing a lot of this. Liberalization. The Prime Minister has announced 15 subsectors to be liberalized. I know there are a lot of resistance. A lot of the local players, they don't want liberalization. They say, oh, no, cannot liberalize. We must keep our market only for Malaysian. But the issue here is if we don't liberalize, we cannot go abroad. Because bilaterals require opening here and they want to open for you. So that is why we have to open our market so that we can also go abroad. But you open it when we are ready lah. We don't open all when we not think we're ready. We look very carefully at the sectors where the Malaysian companies are good enough to withstand competition, then we open gradually, transitioning, and that's what's happening. These are some of the examples. Construction permits is a problem in Malaysia. Although World Bank had showed that Malaysia moved from number 18 to number 12, if you peel behind there, we are still number 96 in terms of the length it takes to get construction permit to do anything here lah. So this is an area. A lot of things have been done to reduce this. Instead of 260 days to get an application through, we now have reduced, crushed it down to 100 days. So that's originally 22 steps, has been brought down to 10 steps. Hopefully, our 96th position in the world under the World Bank ranking will improve next year. Hopefully, that has to happen. Real-time performance monitoring. This one we learned from China. Some of you may have been to China recently or some in the last few years. You remember if you go to the counter, the immigration counter, there's always either the man or woman that is giving, ready to stamp. There's a machine in front. You remember? Anyone have seen the machine? You can tekan good or no good in terms of rating. And the rating is actually assessing the actual person that service. So that is why either the lady or the guy at the counter, they look very carefully, are you going to tekan no good or good? Because they know that it's very important the data goes to the supervisor. We've started to do this in Malaysia altogether. We've now put, when we first started, we only put it all the Balai Police in Selangor. Every Balai Police had a machine. And so tekan also can. Tekan 1 means no good. Tekan 4 means very good. The 3 rating, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're shy, because the police officers right there, it's okay. At the end of the transaction, you get a small slip, you go home quietly, send your SMS message to say 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So it's okay. You don't have to be shy. You come home and can do it. Now, the details from January up to now, the total number of responses that we have, assessment to the police, is 102,919. This is the total number that are there. Altogether, 88.4% of the people who assessed the police said number 4, very good, very satisfied. 11.4% of them rated the police number 3. 0.1% of them rated them as number 2. Number 1, which is bad lah, that is 0.1%. So actually it's quite good lah. I know you don't believe me. I know you anything to do with police you don't believe, but I'm just telling you the facts. Yeah. You guys fill in 102 people. It's not me. I never went to the police station. So I'm just telling the stories. The 102 people, 102,000 people that tekan and fill the SMS, this is their rating. Now, slowly. So now we move, next slide. This is where we're moving it. We now have put this at the Dewan Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur. We've now moved it to the Selangor Immigration Centers. We've also moved the thing to the National Registration Center. For Bandanan, Putrajaya also now got this. Gradually, we're going to put this in all counter rating in the civil service, gradually, so that I can tekan, good or no good. So you know the beauty of this is this. When I was in MAS, we did this, but it didn't work. I'm telling you, it didn't work. I was in MAS. Why didn't it work? You go to the counter, we put like that also. But when you tekan no good, you are assessing the whole counter, because we don't ask the officer to put in their service number there. Whereas this one, if you go and you're on shift, on duty, you have to put in, clock in. So when the guy tekan, it's to you, no? Directly to the person, it's not the counter. So what happens today is that all those guys who have poor rating, the report comes out to the supervisor, and the supervisor, there are 10 people in this counter. All of the 10 people, there's only one guy that's no good, and that is him. His name is Tristan, for example. Not the real one, he's not a police. And all the others are good. So the supervisor will know he's the problem. So he will pull him and said, why's everybody unhappy with you? They said, because you don't smile. Then we asked him, can you talk to the other guys at the counter? Why are they good? I know it's very clear, very simple. This is our view today, is that this is one of the things that will be helpful to us to improve the quality of frontline officers in government. It's important for us. A lot of things are done on human capital development. This is some of the lists. One of the things was minimum wage we had to put in. I remember I joined the workforce in the year June 1982, joined Shell at that time. We were talking about minimum wage in 1982. Cannot be done. Only now we are going to implement it. And the reason is this. It's very difficult to get an agreement between the employers and the employees, because the employees and the unions want the minimum wage to be very high, very, very high, and then the employers want to be reasonably low. And how do we get a balance? So we finally, after a long discussion, we managed to get an agreement where we just somewhere in the middle. It's a compromise. But the list is very long. There's ProCert, and we have many, many things to improve the upskilling, the Employment Act, Human Resource Management for SMEs, and these are the lists, and I will not go into detail. So that's SRI. If you want to know more about what happened in the first year, please read the ETP document. All the details are what we're implementing under the SRI. The problem today is that a lot of people criticize Pemandu and government for not doing the strategic reform. But when we tell them in detail, nobody write the story because it's boring. Nothing sexy. You build a hotel, everybody talk about that one, Ken. You build the MRT, everybody talk about that one. But you say we're going to improve standards and liberalization, yawn, very long time. And so nobody want to write. So I hope today that my guys, we have booths outside. Please engage them for more details. And hopefully if you're in the media, write stories around it. But we are doing what we can on making sure all these underlying reforms are implemented alongside. So it's not just one, we do both. So now I'm going to talk about the more sexy one, the one you like to hear, the traditional NKEA. MRT, there are folks MRT here. I saw a couple of people. I know they are nicely at the back, they're a bit scared. Now, they are doing great work. The MRT SPED folks are involved in doing this, the MRT. They're doing everything we can to make sure. These are real pictures. These are not Idrijala pictures, they're real pictures. These are real work that's happening. 53 packages have been tendered out. There are 8 in progress. 24 will be awarded eventually. And the construction has begun. So I'm very convinced that the work we're doing on MRT is really, really going to be catalytic for Greater Kuala Lumpur. And some of you who are involved in the lab, when we first had this, I want to thank you for being there and helping this, make it happen. We may be a little late in doing it. I think in my view, maybe we are 5 years a little too late, but nonetheless, we're doing it. So this is really happening. I can tell you this, if we were approaching the MRT as a standalone project, I'm convinced today we will not be able to justify the MRT. What was the trick? We didn't cheat people. We simply said, you must look at the MRT as part of Greater Kuala Lumpur. What is the catalytic impact of the MRT on the whole of Greater Kuala Lumpur? That was the attitude question taken by London when they took the London Underground. They saw the whole London, the catalytic effect. That was also the attitude, the approach taken in Singapore. Same in Tokyo, same in Thailand. So you got to look at it as a catalytic project, and that's what we did, and that's why we're now totally convinced that Greater Kuala Lumpur absolutely needs the MRT to move forward. Very, very important. By the way, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur is now ranked number 4 by CNN. We don't argue with CNN on the ranking. They said we are number 4, we are ahead of Paris, we are ahead of Hong Kong, we are number 4. Very good. But you know, when you look at the ranking, CNN ranking, our public transport is not one of the best, because we need to improve this. We know that. So that's why, can you imagine what happens when we can improve our connectivity in public transport? Then the ranking will be even better. So that is good. There's another big project down south, the Pengerang Integrated Petroleum Complex. A lot of people think this is just rapid. Big project, it goes beyond rapid. The chart that shows, rapid surely is a very big project, the Petronas project. There is Dialogue, VOPAC that we're putting out there, also very, very big. There are 2 other adjacent plots within the PIPC. We call that Investor A and Investor B. We are talking, I cannot tell you who they are, but we are making sure and encouraging them to come and make this really big. The total investment, cumulative investment comes to 170 billion ringgit altogether, 22,000 hectares of land. And annually, it will produce something for us, GNI of 17.7 billion annual GNI every year, continuous. And at the same time, 8,500 jobs. This is a high-paying job. It is not a low-paying type of job. It's very catalytic for Southern Johor and Malaysia. Biogas, I'm just giving some example. I'm not going to go all the examples. If I give you all the examples, we'll never leave this room. We're here until evening, but I'm just giving some samples, big and small, so that it's variety. And so, a bit random. We took this biogas for green economy so that you know that we're not just thinking about fossil fuel. Just so that you know that we're talking about renewable future also. Now, the view was, how do we capture methane gas to generate electricity for greener economy? We've said that we have to encourage biogas for the green economy going forward by allowing and encouraging a lot of private sector to do this, and mainly in the oil palm sector. You can see Bel Pri Sawit in Batu Pahat already done. We have another one in Rompin in Pahang, this tea teh palm oil, Kilang Kelapa, Serting Hilir in Felda. We have a few others you can see there. Now 57 mills are already completed to capture the methane gas to generate electricity. They are also capable of connecting it to the grid and be paid for that connection. 15 are under construction. There's many more, 149 are in the planning stages. On the side, we also introduced the feed-in tariff, some of you remember, to encourage energy from renewable. The feed-in tariff works like this. So if you have a big project on solar, for example, you have the project there and you connect it and to the grid, we then give you a premium, or if you like to use the word subsidy, for renewable solar. But there is a digression for that, because we believe that subsidy is like opium. You know, you can be addicted to it. So we've said from the very beginning, when you gave them the feed-in tariff, In 8 years, we'll gradually make it zero. This is the program, how it becomes zero. The degradation scale is clear, so that everybody know that you do it, that's how it works. So that's going very well. Next slide. This is a different example from oil palm, a very interesting one, tocotrienols and carotenes. Altogether, a lot of research are being done on clinical trial, and there are some very positive, if you like, hypotheses that will help to reduce cholesterol, lower blood pressure, reverse arterial blockage, protect against heart injury, anti-cancer, and actually suppress many others. So it looks good. There are some outside if you want to take a look at it. I think they have some samples, hopefully enough for everybody. Yeah? I didn't see too many just now, but if you're early, you might get it. One of our directors in charge of oil palm, John Lau, I think he takes this every day. He believes in it. These are some of the things that we're doing. Small because, to my mind, these are very high premium. The research are done in the US, mainly by top universities and hospitals. The clinical trials are being done in the US to make sure that we make some breakthroughs in this area. On Sukuk, on the financial services, another example, Sukuk is a very big, I think this is the heartland for Sukuk in the world. 70% of the total global Sukuk issuance is actually in Malaysia. Middle East only about 25%. So we are leading the path in the issuance of Islamic Sukuk. Next example, this is also financial services. 2 of the 4 largest IPOs last year and this year actually come from Malaysia. Number 1, of course, Facebook. Japan Airlines, we used the number 2, the Felda, but we're now number 3 because Japan Airlines is bigger. And then the Felda Global Ventures is 3.3. The integrated healthcare is also one of the big ones. Next. Electrical and electronics is a very key one. Some of you may have been in the labs and some of you may have heard our story. What was the missing part of our strategy before was Malaysia was earlier than Japan or Taiwan, earlier than Singapore in moving ahead towards electrical electronics industry, mainly in Penang. But we concentrated very heavily on assembly work. What was needed was we need to move more of the activity to do more of manufacturing the core component parts and R&D, because we stayed there. Singapore and Taiwan came a bit later than us, but they moved quickly into manufacturing of core component parts and also R&D activities. The premium is higher, the salary is higher. You'll find many of the assembly work, foreign workers are there, not the Malaysians. So actually it's not a very high good thing for us. So when we talk about the ETP, we wanted as many of the companies in our industrial park to do manufacturing of the core component parts and to do R&D. And I'm pleased to say you this list. The list of the projects that are there, we have EPPs under E&E, there are 15 EPPs, the list is clear, and we take every single one of them. The way we're now saying they are doing manufacturing activities, they are also doing R&D activities. And so Infineon opened a new plant in Kulim. We have 5 companies expanding operations and 3 more companies setting up in the IC design, so etc. The list is long. So we are, as far as I'm concerned, this is own strategy. We are moving as many of them to do manufacturing, not just assembly, because assembly is a step 1, but you have to manufacture. If you don't manufacture, assembly very easy. You just bring everything, get our cheap gas and electricity and do that. In my view, if a foreign company just want to come here, get into our industrial park, they want to invest in it, and just enjoy our cheap electricity, get our cheap land, and just want to do assembly and want government assistance, no thank you very much, we're not interested. Malaysia is not interested. Please go away to another country that will give it. We're interested if you say, you come here, you want to manufacture and you want to do R&D, yes, we will embrace you. So the quality of investment is key. You cannot just say any investment is good enough. We'll have to make sure we want quality investment. Project Tukar is an interesting one for our retail and wholesale, the NKEA. When we started this, it was a very simple idea that came out from the big box retailers, I call them. You have Tesco, you have Maidin, you got Carrefour, and all those guys, they were in the room, you know, how do we make sure that they grow together with the small mom and pop stores. There was quite a lot of tensions in the room. between the small players against the big players. He said, you guys are big, you come here, you category killers, you kill the markets, and we mom and pops will not survive. So we then asked for good ideas. And this is one of the more radical ideas that came about, that the big box retailers, such as Tesco, Carrefour and Maidin and others, they help the small mom and pop stores in merchandising to transform their stores. And then the results hopefully will be better. I remember when we were in the lab, Dato' Amir from Maidin, he said, I want to take the challenge, give me 2 stores, my team will go out there and take out all the product and revamp it. Within 2 weeks, we will see the results. So when we did that, the results was astounding. More than 50% increase in sales after 2 weeks of just making it look good. Merchandising, the planogram and everything proper. And so because of that, we decided now to put this called Project Tocar. In the first year, we have 519 stores across the country that have been transformed. And in this year, already 558. So altogether, 1,000 over mom and pop stores have been transformed in look and feel and merchandising, etc. The average growth in revenue is 20%. Some of them, of course, higher than others. This is really very good. And I think this program is one of the more innovative projects that I see happening here, because the big guys are helping the small fellows so that there's enough for everybody. So, and I do believe the way forward is that if we can include one another, the big folks coming out to help the small people, that's a model for our economy. And perhaps that's a very good thing. And I really like the work that Maidin and Tesco and Carrefour, they're all doing, and I will not mention the others also, they are also as good who are involved in this to help moving forward. Let me talk about the economy. So I now talk about some of the examples, many more. You talk to my colleagues later on, they will tell you. First, for the economy. Our economy grew in the GDP grew by 7.2% in the year 2010. That's very good. Then we grew last year by 5.1%. This year we've already grown by 5.3%. If you look just across the APEC consensus, we beat the consensus. Most of the analysts said that we will grow at 3.8% this year. Already we've beaten them. So some of you are analysts here, maybe part of you look at your data, and you will remember that in January this year, you said the Malaysian economy will grow at 3.8%. You're wrong, because the data already suggests we've already, up to the third quarter, we've beaten your forecast. So that's good. Thailand grew at 3%. Singapore grew at 1.3%. South Korea grew at 1.6%. Taiwan grew by 1%. Hong Kong grew by 1.3%. So in the neighborhood, we're quite good okay? So this is good. So must remember there are people who don't like this story. There are people who don't like anything that is good. But hopefully more and more of us like the thing that is good. I like the good things. This is good. Investment. This is really going well. If you take a look at what was investment for the first 9 months of last year, both public and private, there was, you can see the chart, and also the 9 months of this year. Private investment for this 9 months of this year compared to the same 9 months last year grew by 25.5%. This is phenomenal growth actually. Dato' Mustafa, who is in charge of putting all the investment together in the cabinet, he said in as long as he's been in cabinet for quite a long time, he's never seen these numbers. So 25.5% growth in private investment. Private investment grew by the same quantum, but you can see both of them growing. Already now, for private investment, our numbers are already, in the first 9 months of this year, is already 88% of the full target. You remember last year, we did 94 billion ringgit of private investment numbers. Our target was 83. We surpassed it. We put even a higher target this year, 127 billion ringgit.